Good evening, everybody. Another teacher talk sessions tonight. Tonight we are going to have our 49th session. Wow, it's really a big number, 49. And tonight we are going to have a very special guest from Italy. Yes, and he is a listening specialist and co-founder and CEO at Phonema SRL and also owner of voicebook.cloud. And he's going to also mention about it tonight. And tonight we are going to talk about him. By the way, he is Anthony Green from Italy. And we are going to talk about some teaching experiences about teaching and advantages and disadvantages of working in Italy, distance education, the role of listening in education, learning language education, and types of listening skills and barriers in listening, and top-down and bottom-up listening strategies. Of course, we will talk about another topics too with him, and also learning trends and useful web pages for listening. He is here, by the way. Let me invite him, and we can start our live session with Mr. Green. There he is. Hello. Good evening, Mr. Green. It's great to see you.
Hello. I'm so pleased to be here.
Welcome to Teacher Talks. It's really great to have you as a guest. And I would like to say thank you to accept my invitation for Teacher Talks. And we are really excited to listen to you, Mr. Green.
Great. That's wonderful. That's wonderful. I can't wait to start. So hello to everybody. Everybody who came along, who made this possible, because without you, it would just be me and Volkan talking again.
Thank you very much, Mr. Green. Okay, if you are ready, we can start.
Yeah.
So, all right, great. So, Mr. Green, I know you, but maybe our listeners and other people want to know about you. Can you tell us about yourself, please?
Well, yeah. You said I'm from Italy. Which is true in a way, but I'm a native British. Right. And I've always loved languages, and I loved them at school, probably because I was introduced to them by my parents when I was 3 or 4. So we would go to visit foreign countries, and my parents would speak to these people in French, and I would say, "Wow, aren't my parents incredible?" So my life has just been connected with languages. So I had a good attitude towards languages. I thought I could see. I experienced at a very young age just what they could provide, and I imagine a lot of kids in Turkey are getting that, especially in the more touristy areas, but not this year.
Mm-hmm. I see. Okay, wonderful. Thank you, Mr. Green. So my next is it all?
Go. Yeah.
Okay. My next question is about your experiences in teaching. Can you tell us about your experiences in teaching to us?
Yeah. Well, I was very lucky because I was at university and they gave us a year to study abroad, and one of the opportunities was to go and teach. And I loved the idea. I loved working with kids, even when I was a kid. And so I thought, well, it can't do any harm, can it, to do 1 year of teaching and then go and do a different kind of job. But I went out there and I loved it so much. I was in Paris, and I just had such a lovely time that I continued basically after that. I completed my first degree, then I did a PGCE at London University, and I've been teaching English basically ever since.
I see. Okay, thank you, Mr. Green. And Mr. Green, my next question is about your favorite moment or experience in your own education. So what was your favorite moment or experience in your own education that you still remember?
Yeah. Do you know what I think it was? When I realized that my teachers had a sense of humor, that they were on my side, and it was curious because I was brought up in the 1960s when there was quite a distance between teachers and pupils. And then one day we had someone who came in and who was smiling and joking, but obviously completely interested in each person in the class. Whereas before, the teachers tended not to be particularly interested in the individual. Yeah? And that I've tried to carry over into my teaching. And so I always try to make sure that I know all of their names as quickly as possible. And that creates a connection. And that connection is the most wonderful thing in teaching, especially when you can use that connection to make a transformation. Take somebody who has a lack of confidence, and especially, hello Tamari, and especially in English, I find, at least in Italy, and I don't know if it's the same for you in Turkey, but that it's very, very easy for people to lose confidence in their ability to learn English. They think there's something wrong with them. But I believe that every person has a little perfect part. And sometimes we don't reach that perfect part, that passion that can help them along to learn everything. Language you can use language to find that passion, or you can use that passion to help learning languages.
I see. Thank you very much, Mr. Green. Thank you very much. Mr. Green, can you tell us about your current job and what kind of things you are doing?
Yeah. Well, I'm very lucky. I work at the veterinary college at the University of Bari.
I see.
And so the students that I have are all going to be vets in the future. Quite often, they are going to work in other countries.
I see.
And so they have a specific need to be able to talk about things that they've never studied at school. So they need a lot of specialist vocabulary. They need a lot of topics that they've never spoken about. And so it makes it very challenging. And of course, they have a passion for animals, which is wonderful. But they come out of school with either with very good English, and so they're a B2, C1, and basically I don't really see them at all. They come to the classes and they realize that the classes are aimed at a much lower level, and so they participate. But the majority of them are about A1, A2 in English after 11, 13 years of English at school.
I see.
And so something is going wrong at school. And so you have a big group here down at the bottom, no one in the middle. And then you have a smaller group who are very, very good, the B2s and the C1s. Yeah. But I don't get many B1 students. Yeah. So these people here at the A1, A2 level, they were probably A1, A2 when they were 11 or 12 years old. Yeah?
I see.
And in 10 years of English, more or less, 8 years of English, they haven't learned anything. They haven't really made any progress. And I'm fascinated by that. And so where are we going wrong? And
I see.
It struck me after a while, after looking at this for such a long time, that of course before you're 11 or 12, you learn your English quite often from listening to your teacher, from listening to tapes, etc. And it's quite oral, your learning of English. And then I don't know very much about the school system in Turkey, but in Italy, you go from elementary school at 11 and you go to middle school. And in most English teaching, as far as I know. Certainly this is true in Italy. Tell me if it's true in Turkey. Most of the words at elementary school you learn orally, and most of the new words at middle school you learn by reading.
I see.
And that is a disaster because all of the kids read words and decide how those words are pronounced. They invent the pronunciation of these new words.
I see. Mm.
But as we know, if you try to invent the pronunciation of an English word, when you see it on a page, you will get it wrong. Even if you're a native speaker like me.
Yes.
You know? And I have this wonderful example of Jennifer Doudna, who won a Nobel Prize in chemistry, I believe. And I was listening to her on a podcast by The Economist. And she used a word with really strange pronunciation. Okay, it's not a very common word, but she said harbinger. And I said, you cannot say harbinger, it's harbinger.
I see.
I thought, maybe she's not a native speaker, but she's a native speaker. She was born in Hawaii. And I said, what's happened here? And it struck me, yes, of course, she's read the word so often.
I see.
Heard it from someone who read the word, and she's invented the pronunciation. And so we can do that at all levels. And if you have a word with, say, an O-U-G-H in it, in English, or though, or through, or thorough, etc., you cannot possibly invent the pronunciation. You will get it wrong. And so if you invent, everything starts from pronunciation. I think, did Hugh Della say that? No, he didn't know. I was talking last week to Hugh Della, who I know spoke about this, and he's very interested in pronunciation. Yeah. And but everything starts from pronunciation. You know, we when we're babies, we listen to this pronunciation. And listen, and only when we really are confident that we can make this sound, then we use that pronunciation. So when we invent the sound, then every time someone uses that word, we can't understand it.
I see.
So there's a negative loop, and so if you get the wrong pronunciation, you stop learning. You think, I can't do this. And you're right that you can't do this. And that's where we as teachers are so important, because we need to give them the right strategies, the right tools to be able to get over that problem. So I forbid my students from learning a word by just reading and inventing. They have to use WhatsApp, for example, to see if WhatsApp can, you know, the dictation you can use on WhatsApp.
Yeah.
If it doesn't, if WhatsApp doesn't understand you, then then other people won't understand you. And if WhatsApp and other people don't understand you, you won't understand them. Yeah. And so you win if you can say the single word, get 2 points or 3 points.
That's a good point, really.
If they understand the single word, and it's not perfect, so it finds a difficulty in understanding the difference between cold and called. But apart from that, it's pretty good. Yeah. And 1 point if they can, if WhatsApp will understand them in the phrase, because if you've ever used the WhatsApp dictation method, you start to speak and you can see it changing the words when it realizes you hadn't said that word, you'd said something else.
I
And they get
see.
0 points if WhatsApp won't understand in the phrase. But generally, WhatsApp will understand in the phrase. So
If
you generally get at least 1 point.
Yeah, from that one. Okay, great one. I try it, but I never look at that WhatsApp the voice one in that way. I will do it in that way after this time. When I check it, if something wrong, I said this pronunciation is wrong. I will
Next,
use that.
next to the 1, 2, 3 button in on your most keyboards, then
Yes.
there's a microphone. Yeah, you might have to change it from Turkish to English. On some
Mhm.
phones, it will say no, it's just Turkish, and you'll see Turkish words come on on the phone. Then you need to
Oh,
change.
I see. I'll try to that. Thank you very much, Mr. Green, for this the great
And I'd
clue
be
about that one.
delighted if other people give me feedback on that,
I
because
see.
it's really my students who taught me that with their terrible pronunciation.
Great. Thank you. And Mr. Green, I know that you are original, of course, you are from England, you are British, but you live in Italy for a long time, I think, in Italy.
Longer in Italy than in Britain. Yeah,
I
yeah.
see. And what are the advantages and disadvantages of working in Italy?
Right, right. Well, Italy is a Mediterranean country, just like
Yeah.
Turkey.
Mm-hmm.
Parts of Turkey, I suppose. Some parts of Turkey are not very Mediterranean, and for a British person, going to a Mediterranean country means two things. It means wonderful weather, and it means wonderful food. But
Yeah.
of course, in the winter, it doesn't mean wonderful weather. It means very cold.
Very cold weather, exactly.
But we have a vision of Italy, and of course it's lovely. I live on the sea, and so I go for a swim early in the morning every day. Well, I like to think
Wonderful.
every
It's
maybe one.
great.
And the food is simply wonderful. And in each part of Italy, you can get different food, so it's wonderful to explore that.
I see.
And for a teacher, it's wonderful because there is so much to learn. They need teaching, and they need they, they they need better tools than we have at the moment. And I have a problem with the way that, for example, in most of your course books, if you open up your
Mm-hmm.
course, you will see the listening exercise, listen twice to this, and then answer these comprehension questions.
Mm-hmm.
And that, for me, is nothing to do with teaching.
I see.
That is testing.
Mm-hmm.
And testing is great if you want to find out what someone's level is. But if you know that their level is A1, A2,
Yes.
I say let's not give them a test, because every time you give them a test, they look at those questions and they go, oh no. But it's asking a question about something that I didn't hear. Okay, let's use my top-down skills. Let's think. Okay, they've said, okay, what sport are they going to play this evening? And I think I heard the word tennis. Yeah. Okay, so I'll
Yes.
write tennis.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. But they probably only understood one word out of
Mm-hmm.
10. And how are we helping them to understand the other 9? Because really, that's what we need to do, to make sure to help them go from an A1, A2 to a B2C1, where most students, it's probably
All right.
true to say that most students have that potential
Mm-hmm.
to reach that level,
Yes.
and they're not reaching it. They're down here. And
Mm.
every time we give them a test which tells them you are not at the right level, and they get 4 out of 10 on the test.
I see.
We tell them again and again that they're not good enough. And so they're quite right to say, look, English, no. I'm the problem with English, yeah? And, sometimes in Italy, for example, their Italian teachers, and the person who teaches them Italian,
Exactly.
the person who teaches them English. But the person who teaches them Italian will say, oh, Italian is a very complex language. If you want a simple language, choose English. Oh, no, but I have such a problem with asking a question in English, etc. Instead of saying to the teacher of Italian, Professoressa, what is your certification in English? Have you got a B2 in English? And she would say, oh, no, I can't speak English. I just know it's a language. And
it's a great point.
And do you know, when you give them a listening, and after 5 seconds you start to see a face going,
exactly, yeah.
and you've lost them when you do that. Somebody's just written here, listening is not usually taught, but it's evaluated. Big mistake. Yeah, I can't see that person's name. Is that Ludo? Ludodrama.
Ludodrama. She says, listening is usually not taught, but it's evaluated. Big mistake.
Right. I mean, evaluate it once a year. That's great. Yeah, to see the progress that they've made. So how are we going to help them with this? And unfortunately, what course books often tell us to do, and again, I really disagree with this. Do lots of pre-listening exercises, so you can give them all of the vocabulary that they're going to hear. Use all of your top-down abilities to imagine what vocabulary you're going to hear, all of the structures, everything that they're going to hear, so they don't do any listening.
I see.
And then they can get good marks on the listening, but they're not doing any listening. And again, it's evaluation. What we want to do is teach them or help get them to learn. It's one thing if I, as a teacher, tell my students about aspects of the rhythm of English. But I can tell them about that for hours. The only way they will understand that is by trial and error, by making mistakes in a safe environment. So doing an evaluation, they make mistakes in a dangerous environment because they get a bad mark. And the teacher says, okay, if you're in England, you go to detention. You have to come to school after schools. In Italy,
exactly.
that would be kidnapping. You can't do that in Italy. You can't do detention. But I don't know if you can in Turkey.
No. No detention. I think we don't have it, but maybe sometimes, maybe after schools.
And so we need to give them a safe environment where they can make as many mistakes as they like.
Yes.
As many mistakes as they need to make in order to learn, and they can find out without the teacher finding out that they made any of those mistakes. And I mean, that's really why I started up my recent activity, which I'll tell you about later, in order to give a tool to teachers and to students. One of your questions was which learning trend captures your attention most, and for me it would be the flipped classroom, because the Luda Drummer, I think we see eye to eye on this. She says students first need to learn bottom-up strategies before getting the
before
big.
getting the big picture.
Absolutely. Now, uh, let me use that. One of the words that using this tool I've discovered that my students had one of the greatest problems with understanding is spelled A-N-D.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, because when they're very, very young, they in the first lesson maybe of English, second, third language, yeah, they learn the pronunciation is and. Yeah.
Uh-huh.
Sometimes in Italian schools, they learn the pronunciation is end. So it's simplifying the sounds. And of
I
course, the
see.
sounds of English can be a problem. But if it's and or end, they learn the strong pronunciation,
Mm-hmm.
which probably only used 1% of the time. And 99% of the time, like in fish and chips, it's a sound.
I
Yeah.
see.
And if you don't understand,
Mm-hmm.
then
Hello? Hello? Let me invite him one more time. Hello, Mr. Green. Can you hear me now?
Yeah, great, great.
Sorry
Yeah.
for this one. I think there was a kind of a problem
Okay.
about the connection problem. Yeah,
But we
we can
seem to
continue
have
now.
everybody in the room, so that's great.
Yeah.
Lovely. Okay, great. What was I saying? I can't remember.
You were talking about the sound.
Oh yeah, yeah, right, right. And these little sounds. I don't know if in Turkish, so something like is a word or has some meaning or what. But in English, it means for. But if we don't have pronunciation, then they will never understand. This is for you, and I think it's few, and you know they just go completely off. And we in Italy, for example, I joke with my students because I say Italian is like the music that we associate Italian with is opera, where every syllable is very clearly pronounced. Yeah. And every word that is written, you know, before you read it, you know how to pronounce it. And I remember I've spoken a little bit of Turkish, but a very small amount. And I remember thinking, oh, this is wonderful. I can read a word and I know how to pronounce it. Isn't that wonderful?
Great.
And I can't really remember about the rhythm, but the rhythm of Italian is like opera. So da 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 da, and some are a little bit more stressed than others. Yeah, and I say to them, "What is the music that you associate English with?" And they will say rock music or rap.
Music.
And it'll go boom, 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 boom. And all of these little sounds here, the weak sounds in English, they're not part of language in Italian, yeah? And they, growing up speaking Italian, they have been trained to ignore these sounds. These sounds are not, yeah? And so, and etc. are they need to be retrained to pick up on those sounds. Now, yeah, exactly. Great. Ludo Drummer, we must have a long talk.
Exactly.
So they need this help. Also, I don't know if it's true in Turkey, but in Italy, kids are already bilingual by the time they reach middle school, by the time they reach 11. Their first language is their local dialect. And their second language is Italian. Yeah.
I see.
And we can use that. I don't know if it's true in Turkey. Do you have a lot of regional variation?
Regional variations, but maybe some part of, we can say that not the whole Turkey, I think.
Right. In Italy, it can be very, very strong. And so you can say to them, look, don't speak Italian using the same rhythm as you use in your local dialect, because it sounds really strange, and vice versa. Yeah, and so they stop thinking that English has to be there's a phonetic transcription of English, which is the English written word, which is a very, because Italian is a phonetic transcription, it's very difficult for a lot of students to accept that. And so they say to us,
Yeah, sorry interrupting. Yeah, Nilgün says that they are not in Turkey by that age. Exactly, I agree. It's not,
Yeah.
it's like bilingual in that age in Turkey. They're not.
Right, right. But bilingual with two very similar languages in
Mm-hmm.
Italy, not in English. Yeah.
I see.
And so they need so much help. And I imagine Turkish kids are the same. Yeah. And Turkey, I don't know if you no, I can't hear you anymore.
Hear you. Hello?
Um, oh, great. Great. Okay. So in Turkey, I don't know if you hear any English on the television, but you don't in Italy. Everything is dubbed, and so there's no connection with English, and
Mm-hmm.
so it's from that point of view too. And so help them with these rhythms, and they will start to pick them out. And that is bottom up. What is fish and chips, kids?
I see.
And they will get, oh yeah, it's fish and chips. Look at the sign for fish,
Mm-hmm.
apostrophe n
And
apostrophe chips.
exactly. Chips.
Why do we use that sign? And I go, oh yeah. What else has apostrophe n apostrophe? Rock and
Mm.
roll.
Yeah,
Yeah,
rock and roll.
yeah, yeah. And so they start to think, oh yeah, okay. And they stop saying what a lot of adults still say.
Mm-hmm.
They say you eat the words.
Yeah,
All of these weak syllables, they're right to say, in effect. If they're not trained to hear those weak syllables, then we are eating those words. It's not language, yeah?
I see.
And so we only hear the strong syllables. And, very often, if you don't hear one word in a sentence, even just one word,
Mm-hmm.
meaningless. So that can be 5%, you can understand 95%. If you
Yes.
don't understand that one word, you don't understand
I
anything.
know. I see. I see. Interesting
Okay.
point. Yeah.
And
Thank you.
so if we give them the tools to do that, they will.
Okay, Mr. Green. And thank you very much for this great explanation. And so my other question is actually about distance learning. We are in a very difficult times, as you know that, and we are all move from face-to-face education to online education.
Yeah.
So, what do you think about this distance learning, and what is the place of listening in this part?
Right, right. In a way, distance learning can help in some aspects.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and so what I find with my students is that some of them don't even know each other. They've never met.
Oh.
And distance
Mm-hmm.
learning can be very, very boring if you're doing a class with somebody you don't even know. And
Mm-hmm.
so I make sure that in the speaking exercises that I give them, I put them into rooms. Now, I hope that you have the right platform so you have rooms.
Mm-hmm.
And I say to them, okay, go in and find out something about that other person that you're in the
Mm-hmm.
room with. I don't mind what it is, and then come back and report about that thing. So Maria has got 3 dogs. One is 15 years old. Great. And then everybody knows something about Maria that Maria wants them to know. And of course, they do that through listening, especially. And
I see.
distance learning makes it easy to exchange MP3 files, but
Mm-hmm.
also I get my students to use voicebook.cloud, which is
Mm-hmm.
the platform that I've set up, so that they, in their own time, can do their listening. Because one of the problems of classroom listening is that we have the constraint of time, and we want
Mm-hmm.
everybody to to do the listening all together. But if you have a class like I do with mostly A2, A1, A2, and some B2, C1, in a face-to-face classroom, these students, these weaker students, go and sit next to the better students and listen to their answers, and so they're not listening. And these are too good for this listening, and so they're bored. They just give the answers, and there's no learning going on. Okay, and so I would say with distance learning, two things. One is using rooms for helping them to exchange information, and the second one is use voicebook.cloud, which we haven't really got time today to go into that very much, but if you want, I will do a separate webinar with you if you would like.
Of course, we would like. Why not? We would like to listen to you, Mr. Green.
Right. Because it's totally based on starting them with bottom up, a little bit of top down, just to help them a little bit. Mainly bottom up. And when they fail to get the other most word in English is the, because the is composed of two sounds, for example, that in Italian don't exist.
Yeah.
Sound in Italian, and there's no sound in Italian. I think there is in Turkish, isn't there? There's an sound, but at least they've got that. But the number of times when the is the last word that they can get. And so they do a dictation, so they're listening and writing in what they think they hear. But the first part of a dictation is just testing. Okay, I'm not interested in that. I don't care what they can already get. What I'm interested in is how I'm going to help them in their I+1 area to learn. So what they tend to do is they get 80% of the words in the first 10% of the time.
I see.
And then they spend the other 90% of the time on the 20% of the words that they couldn't get. And there's lots of different ways of being helped. But when they finish the phrase and they click again on play and they've got their transcription, the transcription that they did, and they listen to it and they go, well, why couldn't you understand that in the beginning? And the lovely thing is that the answer is because you've learned in that period. So you're using what you needed, not what me, the teacher, said that you needed, not my comprehension questions. No, what you couldn't understand. And I, as a teacher, don't really know what you're not going to understand. I might have an idea sometimes, but most of the time they surprise me.
Great.
And it's because of a phoneme that's a bit strange for them. It's because of a rhythm and maybe a background noise that I didn't notice, that I could filter out, but they could. An accent, it can be so many different aspects that stop them from hearing that. But when they realize that they did this by learning, this means that they learned. Suddenly they realize that they are perfect inside. They have the potential to reach this this B2C1 from where they are. And then they use WhatsApp afterwards. I say, okay, now go into the section where it's got all of the words you couldn't understand, all of the words where you give me some help. Go into WhatsApp and see if you can win. See if you can get your 3 points, or just 1 point maybe.
1 point, I see.
Or 0 points. Don't tell me about the 0 points. Tell me about your wins. Tell me, because I'm only interested in their learning. Okay, I'm interested. Tell me about your 0 points if you're frustrated and you can't get it, and I will help you with it. But I'm not going to give you a bad mark because you got 0 points. I want you have to trust your teacher. And
Definitely.
when I found that at last I could trust my teacher. He was my Latin teacher at school, and he came in and he was joking and laughing. And when we started joking and laughing, he would be very strict again. Okay, we understood we had limits, and before that, it seemed like there were no limits. It was just we were there to listen and not express ourselves. Yeah, and so when
I see.
you say, okay, you can go up to here and express yourself as you want. You cannot go any further, and that establishes trust with the teacher.
With the
And
teacher.
when the teacher is teaching you something that you have always had problems with, then you have a lot of trust in the teacher.
I see. I see. Thank you very much, Mr. Green. I really look at the time, and the time really flies. You know, listening to you is really great, Mr. Green. But by the way, we are definitely will have another session with the voicebook.cloud, and we really would like to listen more about that. Okay?
Great.
And my just 2 or 3 questions left that I would like to ask you, Mr. Green. And the first question that I would like to ask you, I mean, not the least, if you could have one superpower to use in the classroom, what would it be and how would it help?
That was the most difficult question, actually, that I had. And so you saw me looking at my notes because I couldn't quite remember what it was. But then I realized I know what it is. It's give every child in the world an equal opportunity. So up until the age of 18, they have the same. Yeah, a kid in Tanzania would have the same input as a kid in Boston in the United States. Yeah,
I see.
then I think we will see amazing changes in the world.
Definitely. Thank you, Mr. Green. So that one is really quite great one. All right, and my other one is Mr. Green. What do you think? What do you think is the most challenging issue in education today for you?
Aha. In a way, I suppose I've already answered it with that
Actually,
quality.
you have.
In a
Yeah.
sense, it's the same. It's the same thing. It's in the developing in the developed world, for example. I think it's giving kids hope. I think what they're seeing now is that, or Italian kids are seeing that they are going to be poorer than their parents were. And they're finding that very difficult to deal with. When I was 20, I looked out to the world and I could see so many opportunities. And I think
Definitely.
20 now, then they're not feeling confident that the world is providing them with lots of opportunities. So if we can show them what they'll be able to do with all of their education, then I think that's, and I see it in my own kids as well to a certain extent. You know, they're worried about the future to a certain extent, and yet they have such wonderful, capacities. Yeah.
I see. Thank you, Mr. Green. And I will move past this question. I was going to ask about the learning trends, but you have already answered what was your favorite trend. But my other question is, what do you love the most about teaching?
I think it's transforming. When I can get someone who has no belief in themselves, and at the end of their time, they are actually quite good. I have a situation at the university where, these people who haven't learned anything for 8 or 9 years, they arrive at the university and they refuse to speak English.
I see.
And then they go through a couple of years of English and they have to do the exam, and they come and they do it with me. And I say, okay, great, you've got to be a B2 level. Is that okay? Okay. It's just a disaster. And I say, okay, great, you've got to come to the lessons and you've got to do it really quickly because you have a barrier. You cannot do these next exams if you do English. Why didn't you come in the first year? Why didn't you come in the second year? And they maybe fail the exam 2 or 3 times. And it's heartbreaking because, you know, they have come to university with this idea that they are flawed. There is something wrong with them. Yeah? And when they fail and fail, they get this idea that they are useless. They are bad. Yeah? And then I say, look, when you're learning English, you will go probably along without making any apparent progress, and then the next day you'll be up here, and you can't understand how you got from here to here in one day when this was 3 months. And then you will go along and you will apparently make no, and then suddenly you will go up like that.
Definitely.
And I remember there was a guy who before we put in the barriers, you have to do English before you've done these. He got to the stage where he had passed every single exam apart from English. And he came along and he was just so terrible. And he did the exam 3 or 4 times and failed. And then he passed. And he did a really good exam. And then almost the next week he had his graduation ceremony because at last he got rid of. And I was walking in the corridor and there was him with his parents. And the student said to me, introduced me to his parents. And I was so embarrassed. I said that I'm so sorry. You know, I'm the person who stopped your kid from your son from graduating for about 8 months or so, something like that. And the father said to me, no, thank you so much for doing this because you've given my son belief. He went to a language high school when he was a kid, and they gave him a really bad education, and they made him think that he was not perfect inside, and you've shown him that he can do it. And so I know that he can go on in future. And now he's working in the Netherlands as a vet.
Oh, wonderful.
And just so wonderful. Yeah. And that sort of thing is priceless. As a teacher, I don't get paid very much money. So my car is 20 years old, but I don't care.
Totally agree with you.
Don't get the satisfaction that we get as teachers. So we're very privileged. Yeah.
Thank you very much for this wonderful experience and the story that you told us. Thank you. And only 2 questions left, Mr. Green. Then our session will going to end. And yes, my question is, what are your favorite 3 websites for listening to suggest for teachers? The first one probably voicebook.cloud.
Well, yeah. There's another one which I really like, which is ELLLO, which is quite an old website, and I like it especially for the fact that he's interviewed so many people from around the world, so you can get wonderful accents, etc. And I'm so frustrated that he just uses it a lot of comprehension questions, and so if you don't understand, it's not a great help. But so that's ELLLO.org.
ELLO, like this?
3 L's. ELL.
Sorry. All right.
English Listening and Learning Lab. Oh, I can't remember what it is.
Okay, ELLO.com, you mean?
EELLLO.
Okay.
.org.
Okay, I have done it here.
Listen, okay, great. And I've written that in partly in there. Yeah, great. That's it, Milton. Yeah, great.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
That's really nice. And but again, what we've done is we've tried to make a learning tool. And if I'd love to find another website that says we don't do testing, and if I can find a listening website that doesn't do testing, and in a way, if you like, TED is wonderful.
I love them. Mm-hmm.
Use subtitles. Oh, thank you, Brenda Teaches.
Yeah, English listening lesson library online. Yeah, thank you, Brenda.
Now, I don't like subtitles because when I watch something with subtitles, even if it's an English film in English that I understand completely, I spend my time reading. And if I spend my time reading, I'm not helping my listening very much.
Mm-hmm.
And in a way, voicebook.cloud is making your own subtitles. Listen to this. Yeah. Give your friends some subtitles to help you. And that enables the learning to take place. So if you can find another website that's doing the same thing, I would be so delighted to see that. Most people just stop at the dictation. Mm-hmm. Dictation is just testing. It's not really, there's not really any learning. And so on our site, you can click on any of the words and use top-down strategies to understand, oh no, that's the again. Oh no, okay, I've clicked on that and I've got this letter that I've got in the word, and gradually it uses fuzzy logic to tell you, yeah, less how you spell this word, but helps you in various different ways.
I see. Thank you, Mr. Green. Thank you very much. All right, and the last and the most difficult question. Ready?
No.
Yes, ready? Okay. So,
yeah, go for it.
What is your motto, Mr. Green?
My motto?
Exactly.
I think that my motto, this is a really difficult one. But I think it's what I've been saying throughout today, I think, is that we have to be able to recognize, or I try to recognize the perfect part in that terrible student. And every one of my terrible students has got a little perfect heart in there. And if I can somehow connect with that perfect heart, that student is going to, or has the possibility to take off, to zoom, and to reach their potential, because not everybody will have the potential to reach a B2C. But I'm not really sure about that. But this perfect heart, okay, it's part of our humanity. And if we can recognize that in everybody, create that trust, be hard on those students who are not making progress, then we can achieve miracles, and that's what makes listening, that's what makes teaching such a wonderful thing to do. Even though I'm near my retirement, I'm going to be retired in 4 years' time.
It's a great one. Okay, thank you very much, Mr. Green. It's really wonderful. Okay, Mr. Green, would you like to add anything else before I finish our live session?
I would just like to wish you the best for the next 2 weeks, because I know you're in a lockdown now. And if there's anything that anybody would like to ask me, I know you haven't had time to ask these, but please feel free on Instagram or find me in some other way. Please feel free to ask me about anything that I've spoken about here. Volkan and I met on LinkedIn, and if we can meet on LinkedIn, I would be absolutely delighted. And if you want to try out voicebook.cloud, you can do that for free for the rest of the school year. No problem with that. If you want your students to tell you whether it's any good or whether Mr. is just talking rubbish to you at the moment, you're very welcome to do that. So contact me on LinkedIn. Maybe that's the best way of doing that. And
Wonderful.
One day I would like to come back to Turkey because I went there.
You're always welcome.
For a wonderful holiday when I was my first real holiday. I traveled all around Turkey from Zonguldak to
Wow.
to Adana, to so many places, to Alanya, diving off the cliffs in Alanya. Is anyone from Alanya?
I don't know, maybe they were here, but you know, lots of people are going and coming. Maybe.
And that was in 1980, I think it was, and amazing place. And then I went back when I was for my honeymoon when I was 30. And so I have wonderful memories of Turkey. I have wonderful memories of listening in Turkish and walking up to somebody, and I just needed to know the time. And I walked up to them and I practiced my best phrase in Turkish about asking the time. And the person responded with about 25 syllables. And I said, couldn't you see that I'm a foreigner? You know, he said, yes, but I thought you'd lived in Turkey for a while because you'd practiced that phrase too well. So I thought you were teaching in Turkey or something like that. And so he said something like, oh, I think it's about 3 o'clock, but I'll just ask my wife. But that was the beginning of a very good friendship. And so...
Wonderful.
Yeah,
great, Mr. Green. Thank you very much for this lovely holiday memory. And I would like to, before we end our session again, I would like to say thank you, Mr. Green, to accept my invitation for Teacher Talks, and you were with us and you made our session great, really, with your suggestions, with your teaching experiences, and with your advices about it. It was lovely. It was wonderful to listen to you. And I hope we will have another chance to listen to you. As you said, we can have another session about what's that book? Voicebook.cloud. Yeah, we are really want to listen to it from you one more time. And that's all for now. And I would like to also say thank you to our listeners, to our guests that you are here. They have a chance, actually. They had a chance to listen to Mr. Green. He said, I'm almost going to retire. Maybe we cannot get this chance from him to listen. But it was really wonderful. Thank you very much, Mr. Green, for being with us here.
I enjoyed it a lot, so thank you very much, Volkan, for giving me this.
You're welcome. And good evening, everybody, and take care. And we are going to be here next week. I mean, on Monday at the same time, on the same day. And I hope to see you again over next week here. Until that time, take care of yourself, and bye and peace. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye, Mr. Green.